right. I'm excited with our guest today on the Abracadabra podcast. This is a special episode too, man. Today we have Mike D from Geeks Inherited The Earth, and coming back for a second time, Ryan Stacey from Tessa. How you guys doing?
Yeah, doing great. How about yourself?
Doing good.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Good.
Well, I tell you what, if you don't mind, we'll start with you, Mike. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and then if you would follow, that'd be great, Ryan.
Absolutely. Everyone knows me as Mike D. I am a producer and co-host of the Geeks Inherited The Earth Empire, local comedian here in Knoxville, and a huge U.F.O aficionado. That's my shtick today.
And there you go, Ryan. Go ahead and let them know.
Yeah, no worries. Your voice sounds like the comic book guy from The Simpsons. I was really feeling that vibe. I was waiting for you to say I also, but I was like totally geeking out there. So my name is Ryan Stacey. I go by very many titles in order to cover multiple things. So I'm marketing properly, but I'm known as a citizen journalist, a active Canadian ufologist, and a paranormal investigator, and the director of investigations for what's called the Experiencer Support Association. I'm a private investigator. I own a company called Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. Tessa is a subsidiary of that department. So essentially what we do for private investigations, we apply to ufology and paranormal and consciousness studies. To summarize all that, we've created what's called an ultra spectrum classification system. And until it gets trendy, ultra spectrum is essentially what we're investigating, all things in the phenomenon. And I study the people associated and affected by the phenomenon. So by definition, I'm technically a phenomenologist, because I'm trying to understand whether A, there is a phenomenon, and B, what parts of those, what makeup of the individual experiencer gravitates towards which type of experience. And then from there, I can categorize whether or not it's something of known origin or unknown. So,
and I want to say this, that's the one thing. Whenever I first met Ryan, I always approach everything a little skeptical. And this was before I even learned about a lot of the other things going on right now. But the thing that I respected about how Ryan investigates is Ryan, one thing Ryan guarantees he knows that is real, and it's that the people who he interviews or who he talks to did experience something. Mm-hmm. So, however, what kind of label someone wants to put on, those people experienced something, which, like I said, I respect that type of approach. But now I got to be honest. I am becoming a believer closer every day, it seems like.
You were not a believer when you were talking.
I wasn't.
Is this I told you so episode?
Well, this is the crazy thing is, I always approach things with a skeptical mind. It's in my nature. It's a magician's nature, and because I do know how easy it is to deceive people and how people want to give in and want to believe in certain things. But this is something that the evidence is there. And we're about to get some big news. I do want to get into this right away. I really want to get into this right away because it's something I was thinking about. The Pentagon now is giving hints that they're saying that there's no evidence that these UFOs or UAPs are alien craft, but they can't rule it out either, which to me just sounds like, why don't you just say you don't know what the hell it is? Now, we'll say this also, to think that this is technology from Russia or China, I'm going to be honest, that scares the hell out of me a lot more than if it was extraterrestrial. Uh-huh. So, and to me, I'm thinking if this is extraterrestrial, that's flying in the skies and what we're seeing, I don't think it's hostile, because if it was, they would have let us know. But then also on the flip side of the argument, to where they're saying, there's a possibility this could be maybe, Russia or China's technology, why in the hell would they be flying it around our air base if you have some type of top technology? Like, okay, remember Desert Storm? Okay, remember whenever we showed up with our Patriot missiles and everybody was freaking out, like, wow, look at America's technology. You don't expose your secrets until it's time to go. You know what I mean? So it wouldn't make sense for these crafts, flying around up there to be Russian or China. You know what? Anybody, you on board with me there?
Absolutely. I find the switch up recently to the UAP designation a little interesting. It means the same thing. Why change it? I think it's because they're trying to draw attention away from it being aliens, because everyone, I think, associates UFO with alien. And that's not what it means, but that's what most people associate it with. So I think that's very curious that they've all of a sudden put that into play.
Yeah, so the UAP word also, so the unidentified aerial phenomenon also includes weather phenomenon. It includes known, like all this other interdimensional, well, not interdimensional, but known biological possibilities. When it's unidentified flying object, it means a machine, and it's very specific. So I think that term, not only does it separate from the ET phenomenon, but it also allows more to be included under that.
Now, did any of you guys see the press conference? The guy, I mean, they didn't give the full press conference, but he was even grilled about, do you guys have, alien corpses but
the guy from the Pentagon. So he was asked questions by uneducated journalists, because he was asked questions to talk about a document in which he was not classified to give answers for. So he, a lot of people are speculating around the body language and his actions and all this other stuff, and he means this and that because he didn't answer. From a strategic point of view, he did exactly what he's supposed to do because he's not qualified to provide those answers. So the deflection is normal. Had the journalist understood who's the one who's supposed to answer the questions, then that guy wouldn't have had to respond the way that he did. But I think on a strategic point of view, from the journalist perspective, they were trying to just get an answer and maybe catch him in something. And unfortunately, that's like above his pay grade. And I think he handled it well under the circumstances.
Well, he didn't say no, though.
No, but he didn't say yes either, because it's up to the DNI, right? So that's the problem that we're having with this. The evidence comes from those videos that were released by individuals, whether or not they're considered to be credible or not, and then shown to the Pentagon. The Pentagon is unaware, according to media, what these things are, and then a push towards national safety or security has been inquired, and the response to the government to responding to that, whether they're aware of said technology. Everything else is speculation and assumption because of what everyone is perceiving these objects to be, and everybody wants it to be aliens. Everyone wants it to be UFOs, because we've been fighting for that for a very, very, very long time. But the evidence doesn't suggest one way or the other. And if they say, as they had said before, that we don't know what it is, but it's not one of ours, doesn't necessarily imply that they don't know who it belongs to and where it resides. By giving up that information without talking to the other parties could initiate some sort of act of war or treason or something of that sort. So they need to have conversations. This document is going to change a lot of things because they have to respond.
Well, the terrifying, once again, the terrifying thing to me is if there is another country that possesses this type of technology. Because, guys, the only reason why we have lived our pampered lives is because, and I'm not saying, I'm not bragging about this in no way, but this is just how it is. The United States was the only country crazy enough to drop a bomb on another country, which we used that for decades to flex on any other country. Okay.
It's a long time to hold a grudge.
It should. Well, what I'm saying though now, if another country has this type of technology, the tables are going to turn. It's going to be a different game, because we do not have this. As far as I know, we do not have this. And to me, the thought of that does make me nervous. I mean, on the flip side, I have a hard time thinking that another country could have this type of technology and we be clueless about it, because literally America's got their nose in every damn thing.
That's a great point as well. And to me, this harkens back to the race to the moon back in the 60s with Russia, a contest to get to that technology first and achieve that first. I mean, that was well known, and obviously secrets are kept tighter these days, you would think. But I see that kind of race as well, and it was well known. And just to have that technology just come out of nowhere is a bit stark.
It is. And also think about this, when we go back to World War II, you guys know how close the Germans came to getting the bomb before us. If that would have happened, imagine, what the world would be like. So, and that's also a great point too about the race to the moon type, situation.
So to touch on those points as far as technology and all these other things go, so like it's plausible. It's very plausible with the advancement of technology that we are having, that other countries are catching up. It's very possible that they may be advanced, because we, even as Canadian government, we work on projects that are in secret until it has to come out to public consumption when it's ready to be released. But it would, as a strategic, So with the United Nations created after the war to prevent another world war. But the whole, so the conversation at the table, something along the lines of everybody needs to disclose what they have so we can help each other. So you got the American government saying, we don't know what it is. You still got all the other countries that need to report on it. One of them should be able to identify it, because if none of them can identify it, then it becomes a threat to the entire nation, entire world. And then we need to figure out what it is. But if one of them happens to identify it, says, yeah, that was us, say it was Russia, then it's a debate on whether or not it was allowed in American airspace, which if it does belong to Russia or China, and why would they allow them to practice the prototypes inside their airspace? That's a question that needs to be answered, which therefore connects other conspiracy theories and all these other things. That people are just gonna connect the dots with so many other things that has happened. And so then you're going to have the question of who has it now? What does it mean? Can we reproduce it? Do we all have it? Are we all aware of it? So saying we don't know what it is and it doesn't belong to us implies to me, looking at the evidence, that they know who it belongs to and they have to clear it before they announce it.
Okay, I can get on board with that. And now, two scenarios here, though. Okay, two scenarios. What if it is extraterrestrial? Okay. Let's look at this. This is a rational approach. Okay, we see these flying crafts, and I think they've got they're showing us video up to what, 2004. Is that where the first TikTok from the Navy is what they've released?
Now, TikTok, yeah.
Now, granted, we know for a fact, every one of us know for a fact, that they've been videoing or taking pictures of UFOs. I mean, as long as they've had cameras. So now that we know these crafts exist since 2004, do we just dismiss everything before that was garbage? No. You see what I mean? It's like if someone took a picture of a giraffe in 2005 and now, someone's admitting it. Oh, giraffes, we've got giraffes. And you're like, well, people took pictures of giraffes, in 1972. Does that mean they didn't exist back then? So basically what I'm getting at, the point is, it's more likely that now that since these videos are real, that it gives some credibility to the things that were, being photographed prior, which also says it's less likely to be another country. Go ahead, Mike.
That's a great point. I was just actually about to bring up as a timeline here. We were talking about this technology being new. All of a sudden, oh, these other countries are experimenting with this new technology, when in fact, UFO sightings for thousands of years have been very similar. There's been common shapes, the cigar shapes, the orb shapes, the triangle shapes. So these things that we're seeing now on video and described now are being described the exact same way they were thousands of years ago in paintings in the 60s here, in the 70s here. My personal experience was from the mid 90s. So the things we're seeing now are not being described as new shapes or new craft even. They've been similar the entire time. So it doesn't seem like new technology.
No, and to touch on that, as an investigator, one who has spent a long time investigating civilian reports, I have spent a great deal educating people on what a lens refraction is, what a dust orb is, and how they apply to those particular elements, what a sky lantern is, Chinese lantern, but sky lanterns, just to be a general term. But, and so, yes, does it mean that this Tic Tac video means that all the other sightings are valued? Yes, if they've been investigated and proper, right? So I put out a report every year. We're in the middle of putting out our ultra spectrum report for 2020. There's going to be a mixed bag of stuff. So it's within the ultra spectrum. So abduction, paranormal, cryptozoology, all that other stuff. I've just released the UFO report. It was called the Canadian Current Event Survey. You can find that on our website, tessacan.org. So with that, we were able to identify most of these unknowns through our investigations and our research on those. Other organizations or agencies are doing the same, but they have different standards. They don't have the same regulations. And none of them are private investigators. None of them are a subsidiary of a private investigating firm. However, some of them are retired police officers and things like that, and militaries, and they possess the tools and the trades. But again, they're retired, and they're just doing it as a hobby. So with that being said, if we need to have credible people investigating whatever is reported after this. So I suspect that if they announce that this is a thing, or we don't know what it is, we think it might be ET, so let's look into it a little bit further, they're going to have to announce some sort of reporting mechanism that goes directly to the government, so that way the government could investigate these phenomena on behalf of the civilian. Now, if that happens, I'll ask both of you, would you trust reporting your investigations, your personals, your informations, whatever your experiences are, to the government, which means you have to provide your details of what, who, what, where, what you're doing, what you saw, what they did? Would you trust them? Because if it is a government psyop or some sort of government experimentation, this could be counterintelligence and a plan to bring everybody together to just basically tell them where their technology is working, so that way they can monitor you and track you a little bit easier.
I don't. Okay. First of all, I've never seen a UFO. I've never had that experience with UFO. But these things almost look like they don't give a damn who sees them. Now it's, a few months ago there was a report of a jet plane. The pilots were like, "Hey, something just flew right over the top of us. What the hell was it?" And these things are kind of like going wherever they want to, wherever they please. I wouldn't have an issue. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't trust the government, period, But, I mean, if it comes down to that, then it's going to be, I think common knowledge, we're all going to be accepted it. Look, we don't know what these things are. Now, you brought up, though, about how come, surely to God, if these are extraterrestrial, Russia's freaking out the same way we are, China's freaking out the same way we are. Because, I mean, there's something a little unnerving about, things just flying around in your skies, coming and going as they please.
Well, I can tell you what Canada's doing. I'm sorry about that. So with Canada doesn't care. So like about the American phenomena. So on our end, we are a group of us. Daniel Otis is a journalist who has picked up the bug. I've given him some leads and some tips to dig into, and through his work, he was able to get this in the conversation in Canada where it was suppressed for a while. So in passing, questions were asked to the Royal Canadian Air Force, their opinions on the Tic Tac and all this other stuff. And I'm paraphrasing here, but their opinion is that they do not report on any on non-credible sources or non-credible threats. So they will not report on the Tic Tac because they believe that it's not a credible source of information. That's the Canadian perspective. Now, how connected is Canada to the States and UK and all this other stuff? So then you got to have a little bit of a history lesson. But basically, after the Cold War, when everything all happened, we all get together. UFO sightings started to happen in '47, around the same time with Germany too. The Germans were building flying saucers at the time.
Yep.
There is a document that we just read that we had posted on our website that we just finally transcribed. That is a detailed report with the RCMP, who investigated a German engineer who had crossed the border, didn't trust America, wanted to share the information in Canada, that the Germans were building flying saucers. That meeting the following day got sent to the Royal Canadian Air Force, or the Royal Air Force at the time, which was the British Air Force, and they interrogated him the same. And then he got interrogated the second day by the Defense Research Board, where the Defense Research Board determined by their analysis that he was lying because they believed that he didn't have enough knowledge to understand the operations of how the German flying saucer worked and where it was located. So they concluded that this particular individual was just trying to get information to get deported back to its country, back to Bavaria, where this individual was. But the most important thing that I pulled out of that document, is that we knew from the get-go, Canada knew from the get-go, that Germans were building these things. And B, we obviously understood enough of it to determine that this guy was lying about how they were designed and how they operated. Fast forward, that technology evolves. Fast forward, our phones, our computers, all the technology that we have has evolved. So we now have the capabilities of videotaping these. So the visibility has not increased. I think our capability and our comfortability to make the reports to ask these questions has increased, and it's increased so much that now we're in that position where Lou Elizondo, who may or may not be credible in this, could also very well have been a disgruntled employee who was terminated and just said, as a last hurrah, I'm going to release this information to really grind your gears. That now we're left with interpreting the information in that way.
Now, you know what, though? I think he is a credible source. And I think now, for the first time in history, that's exactly what we have. Now, I'll be honest. I don't know if you guys have ever heard what Tom DeLonge was saying at first. When Tom DeLonge came out from Blink-182, I thought this guy is, crazier than a bag of shit. He was just, I was like, I can't get on board with any of this. You mean to tell me they took, the singer from Blink-182 in the Pentagon and sat down and gave him this big security brief and all this stuff. And I was like, I can't get on board with this. I was laughing. I was like, this guy's insane. And then this starts happening. I'm like, what if Tom DeLonge was telling the truth the whole time?
Good Stars Academy is a media company. It was originally designed to produce and conduct Angels and Airwaves. So we use that as a platform to get this message out. Tom DeLonge has always been fascinated with UFOs. His father, if you read his biography, his father was a United States Air Force. He had passed away and all this other stuff. So he's decorated father, all this other things. So he has the interest. He might have had the connections through his family, and then everything else. Plus, he's also a Mason, and it's possible
I didn't know that.
Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon may also be Masons. And if they are Masons, then that's where the connections are. And then you can speculate whether or not that has something to do with it.
Okay, now hold on, Ryan Stacey. You done broke into the Mason conspiracy. Are they drinking baby blood too? What are they doing? So
okay. Well, I'm also a Freemason, and I can confirm that we don't do any of those.
That's what you would say.
Well, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I had the answers. Come on. Right. But again, I'm only 32nd degree Scottish Rite. I haven't made 33. So there is a joke that 33 is when we get the aliens. But we also don't know what ranks these guys are too. Point is, with the Masonic Code, the Brotherhood, the credibility would go good with that, because they would have to be integrable if they followed, if they were practicing. They would obviously band together, because brothers help brothers. So there's that association there, which kind of helps you trust the source a little bit more. However, regardless of how much we trust these individuals, that video is evidence that no matter who interprets it, no matter where it goes, how many people write about it, whoever's talking about it, the evidence hasn't changed. And it shows technology that we can't explain. But Lou Elizondo, on one of his videos, when he was being grilled on the scientific, by Mick West, who was trying to explain quite well that it was a known object, Lou's answer to that was that there was more video. There was 20 minutes of unseen video that we didn't have. And that the video was released to the public in order to gauge, quote unquote, our interest or whether or not we knew about it. But to come back and say there's more, it's kind of a piss off, because if I look at it from a legal perspective, when you're about to go, you're about to be sued, you get your evidence, you find out what they have, and then you come to the table and everyone discloses what each other has is, and then you mediate. So if he hasn't disclosed everything, then that's an objection to everything else that's going on, because everyone else who thinks, myself included, that it may be American made, engineered. I also saw the original video before MUFON picked it up, because MUFON wanted to attach with Two Stars Academy to get them at the expo so they could sell tickets to make the money to have that debut. But I viewed the raw footage and I thought it was a blimp of some sort, with some sort of advanced aerial things based on the maneuvers and stuff like that. The Tic Tac video that you see is not the original video. I don't have that, MUFON does.
Wow, I did not know that. Now, so that's the TikTok video that everyone's seeing, that is not the original video.
There's a couple seconds more on the one that we saw.
Now,
and that would be saying there's 20 minutes of unseen video, which could help explain where it's coming from, but it also could identify what it is.
Gotcha. Well, here, let me ask you this, because is it Jeremy Corbell?
Yeah.
Okay, Jeremy Corbell is claiming that there's amazing pictures and footage that they're not showing us, that high detailed stuff. Do you know anything about this, Ryan?
Well, you got to look at the source. So Jeremy is a filmmaker. He's a producer. He gets paid by attention. No offense. You just understand the business and how the message gets delivered, right? So claiming he has that does not mean it exists. So in terms of evidence, I'd like to see it. Is it possible? Sure, it's possible. I have stuff behind me that could be the smoking gun, but I'm not an engineer. I don't have people looking at this stuff. I don't have a team of experts that are corroborating on the same evidence. Everybody's trying to solve this riddle at the same time. Jeremy putting the videos out is good for the media. It's connected with the journalist George Knapp, who's been at the same place, who's credible and all those other things, and get the story out. But it's being withheld so it gets delivered in such a way so that their websites and their media outlets are being viewed when the information comes out. So how much of that is marketing to earn revenue, and how much of that is protecting the interest of the source? So we got to look at that too. And so claiming you have something is a very good way to keep the attention and hold the attention if you're producing a film that is going to explain what it is that you have. And why would you produce a film to get the message out in volumes? But me as a personal, me who has personally followed that and observed a couple of these films based on this hype, I was disappointed with the evidence that was revealed every time. So Jeremy Corbell is a very good storyteller and visual filmmaker. Amazing. But the evidence that comes out of it is so small and minuscule that I find it very hard to accept without seeing the photos, whether or not he's actually talking out of his ass.
Well, now here, hold on though, because I'm sorry, I got to break up the fun. I got to break up the fun. I got to break up the seriousness, all this stuff real quick. Now, I should have told you guys ahead of time. Do you have any sunglasses anywhere close by?
I do not.
It's okay if you don't. It's okay if you don't. Hold on real quick.
I can do this.
Oh, there we go. There you go. Put your sunglasses on real quick.
All right. These are cheap. These are not expensive sunglasses.
I'll just look away.
Because they are among us.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
They live.
Take them off. There you go.
Okay. Whoa, that's amazing.
Here we go.
They're everywhere.
That's
everywhere.
That is on point. Right on. They live, right? Yeah, they live.
Fantastic.
To listen to the rest of this episode, be sure to subscribe and follow the Abracadam Podcast wherever it is you listen to your podcasts. And also, be sure to subscribe and hit the like button here on the Abracadam Podcast YouTube channel for more interesting content.
Danny, will you please stop drinking vodka at my kid's birthday party? And then you got a freaking miracle. There you go.